This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome. This is a life and health Q&A. Kind of put this together, go over a couple questions, explain them as I go through them, give you a little insight as far as understanding the questions and some of the concepts associated with it. Okay. With my material, I use accelerated learning techniques. So you want to read the question, read the right answer, and then you want to read the right answer and go back and read the question. The reason is you got to make the association and understand the concept between the question and that answer. A lot of people want to test themselves, and I'm going to take you a little bit out of your comfort zone. I really don't want you testing yourself. When you test yourself, you're going to read the question, you're going to read all the answers, you're going to ponder on it for a little bit, and then you're going to pick an answer. Now, when you pick that answer, you just imprint it in your mind that this is the answer that goes to this question. Okay? And then you finish the test, and then you grade it, and you realize you got it wrong. Now, the problem with that is the next time you see that question, you're typically going to pick the same wrong answer, because when you picked it in your mind, it was right. And you'll fight tooth and nail that you're correct, even though you're not. And so I don't want you filling your head with wrong answers. That's why with my material, I have the question and I have the correct answer already highlighted for you to go make that association. So, okay. But also by doing it this way, it kind of speeds up your study process. You want to take this test within a week to 2 weeks, no more than 3 weeks from getting started with my material. All of this is short-term memory. You want to use it right away. Just hunker down, focus, study, take the test, pass it, be done. The longer you wait to take the test, the more you actually will forget than retain. Right? So you want to just focus, study, and knock it out. Okay. So let's go through some questions. When is insurable interest required to exist with a life insurance policy? And it's at the time the policy is written, but not at the time of death. So you have to prove insurable interest only one time in life insurance, and that's when the policy goes into effect, or at the time of application, or where the insurance goes into play, whatever the test may use as far as that language, that terminology. You don't have to prove insurable interest at the time of the loss. So it's not like property and casualty insurance where you actually have to prove insurable interest twice. Number one, when you purchase the insurance, but number two, also when the loss occurs in order for you to collect. All right, so keep that in mind. You only have to prove insurable interest one time when the insurance goes into effect or at the date of application. All right. Okay. All of the following statements regarding policy dividends are true, except, and you do get a lot of these excepts or incorrect, looking for the negative answer a lot of times. The answer here is non-participating policies generally pay large dividends. Well, that would be incorrect, because B is actually a correct statement. Dividends can never be guaranteed. Sometimes a company makes a profit and sometimes they don't, or if they do make a profit, it may not be that much. All right. So non-participating policies, whenever you see non-participating, you're purchasing insurance from a stock insurance company. And so you got to view it from the policyholder standpoint. If I buy a policy from this company, I do not participate in any dividend distribution as a policyholder. Right? Now, in the stock company, if you're an investor in the company buying stock, which is ownership, and the company makes a profit, they may pay a dividend to the shareholders, the investors, and its investment return is going to be taxable. Okay. And so not all dividends are taxable. If they are paid to a shareholder in a stock insurance company, they are. But if dividends are paid to a policyholder in a mutual company, they're non-taxable. They're defined as a return of excess premium paid. Now you're using after-tax money to pay the premium on a policy. And so in a mutual company, if they pay you a dividend, they're just giving you your after-tax money back that they, in a sense, charged you too much for. All right? So after-tax money going in, the dividend is giving you your after-tax money back because, in a sense, we overcharged you. All right? So the associations you want to make here is when you see non-participating, think stock insurance company. And when you see participating, think of a mutual insurance company. Mutual insurance companies raise capital by selling policies. That's how they generate income to get started. Okay. So now going to this next question, it's kind of the same topic to some extent, hitting it from a different angle. Sam's insurance policy pays a dividend. Now, knowing that, which we just discussed in the last question, that means you bought from a mutual insurance company. But we'll continue with this question. The agent that sold Sam the policy refers to the shareholders of the company as participating. Right? That means the policyholders participate in the profits. It does throw you when it says shareholders. Okay, you're thinking possibly a stock company, but no. From the policyholder standpoint, if you participate in the dividends, right, you bought a participating policy, and you bought a participating policy from a mutual company. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you bought a policy from a non-participating company, that means you do not participate in any dividends. The dividends are paid to the stockholders or shareholders of the company as an investment return. All right. The term consideration applies to the issuance of an insurance policy. Choose the best description of this term from the choices below. And the answer here is none of the above. Consideration is defined as an exchange of value. Now, your clients present or provide two things of value. They're going to provide personal information on the application, and they're going to pay premium. Money is always valuable. The company has to give something of value back. And the insurance company is going to give a promise. We promise to pay should you suffer a loss according to the terms of our contract. So it's the act of filling out the application, paying the premium for the promise of receiving benefits. Now, knowing that when we go through this, none of these state that. It's not the amount of the death benefit, it's the promise of receiving benefits. The time the underwriting department gives the application, that doesn't even make sense. The face amount of the policy 1 year from the date of issue. Well, it's a promises in the future, but what about beyond that? So it's too specific. And so, of course, the answer here is none of the above. Okay. So there is some process of elimination. We'll go through that as we go through some more questions. Neglect to communicate. This is going to stand out, okay, or failure to communicate would be concealment. So neglect to communicate that which a party knows and ought to communicate. That means they should, so that the other party may make a sound decision. That would be known as concealment. Now, concealment is the customer, the prospect, withholding information because they feel that they're not going to get a policy issued, or maybe they don't want the insurance company to know they have a medical condition. Okay, that's concealment, and it's going to be concealment, and it can actually avoid the contract if it's found out. But the information has to be what we call material. Now, the definition of material, which could be a test question, is important enough to influence your decision into entering into a contract. So if I knew you were terminally ill of cancer and had 6 months left to live, I probably wouldn't sell you a life insurance policy. That would be material to the insurance company in possibly underwriting and issuing a policy. You as a customer, in buying a policy from a company, it would be material if you knew that the insurance company was in a financial hardship situation and they might have to go through liquidation, which means bankruptcy, close up the business. That would be material because I don't think you'd want to buy from a company that's kind of moving down that path of closing their doors. They're not going to be around to protect you if a loss occurs. And so that's kind of what we call material. Right? Boycotting is encouraging people not to buy from a particular agent or a company. Right? That's illegal practice. Maintain professionalism. Don't talk bad about the competition. Don't talk bad about other agents. All right. So just keep that in mind. But you cannot encourage people not to buy from a particular insurance company or deal with a particular insurance agent. The California Insurance Code cites a specific definition for a life agent. A life agent is, and as you see, all of these are false. So an insurance broker, it doesn't have the name life in it. An insurance agent, that doesn't have the life in it. Right. Now, this gets misleading because in the real world, these are kind of loosely used phrases. If I'm roaming around aimlessly and I start having a conversation with somebody, they say, hey, what do you do for a living? I say, I sell life insurance. They will say, oh, so you're an insurance agent. And again, in the real world, that's great. Call me whatever you want. Okay, buy the policy. I'm happy. But that would be wrong in the test world. When you see insurance agent, that's a person who's appointed by an insurance company to transact property and casualty insurance. That means they cannot sell life and or disability insurance. All right. Now, if we further this conversation with this person I'm meeting out in public, right? They call me insurance agent, and they say, which company do I represent? And I say, well, actually, I represent multiple companies. Well, then they say, oh, so you're a broker. And again, in the real world, call me whatever you want. Just buy the policy. I'm happy. But in the test world, again, that would be wrong because we don't have brokers in life insurance. Okay? Brokers charge fees and represent the client to the insurance company. We don't have that. Right? So in life insurance, you are an agent for a company. You're appointed by the company. Your job is to represent the company in selling to the public. That's how you want to understand that. Okay, but just the fact that you represent multiple companies means you're an independent agent, not a broker. Now, if you only represent one company, right, then that would be an exclusive or captive agent. So, C here, the person authorized to aid an insurance agent. Well, if you're helping an insurance agent, then you're dealing with property and casualty insurance. And so aiding an insurance agent to solicit life insurance, that's basically contrary. Because if you're an insurance agent only doing property and casualty, you cannot authorize someone to work on your behalf selling life insurance, someone working under you to sell life insurance. Because in order for you to hire them and receive income from their activities, you'd have to have that license also. So what they're really talking about is an insurance solicitor. There's no such thing as a life solicitor. An insurance solicitor is a natural person that represents a property and casualty broker agent in transacting property and casualty insurance. And again, they cannot transact life and disability. Right? Now, when I say disability, that also means health coverage. Right? So disability is a broad topic. It includes medical, health insurance, long-term care, all the types of medical coverages that are available. Okay. So just kind of running through this. Hopefully I don't bleed that screen a little too much. Viatical settlements are accomplished through the use of an absolute assignment. So what's happening here is we have an individual, they have a life insurance policy, and they find out that they're terminally ill, whatever it may be, right? The doctor says they have up to 2 years left to live. Right? Now, you hear that there's an accelerated death benefit, or sometimes called a living benefits rider, living needs rider, is an advance on the face amount because you're terminally ill. And that's great. But usually the limitation is you have to be terminally ill and have, basically have 6 months to 1 year left to live. So in my scenario, I'm saying they have 2 years left to live. That means they cannot get an advance on the face amount from their own insurance company until another year has gone by, right? And maybe they just bought the policy not long ago where there's not a whole lot of cash value for them to pull out to help cover their medical expenses. And so life insurance is an asset. And as an asset, you can sell it if you need money. And that's what a viatical settlement is where you're selling your life insurance policy because you typically have, up to 2 years left to live. An outside company will buy the policy from you. They'll give you a percentage of the face amount, let's say 60%. They cut you a check, right? And when they cut you a check and buy this policy from you, you're going to transfer the ownership of the policy from you to the viatical settlement company. That means this viatical settlement company now owns a policy on your life. So when they do this, they now pay the premium. And then when you pass away within the 2 years, which is your life expectancy, they get paid the full face amount. Right? So their profit is getting the face amount minus what they paid you, minus the premiums they had to pay until the insured passed away. Right? That's basically how viatical settlement arrangements work. All right? And so again, you're transferring complete total control of the policy to someone else. Now, C is talking about a collateral assignment. A collateral assignment is a temporary partial transfer of the ownership rights of the policy to another party. And so let's say you have a policy and you're having a remodeling in your house being done, and let's say it costs $40,000. You've got a $500,000 policy. You can go to a financial institution and collateralize $40,000 of your policy ownership rights to this contractor. And what happens is if you pass away before paying off the contractor, your life insurance will pay the $40,000 to the contractor. And so, out of the $500,000, that means your beneficiaries get the $460,000 difference, the remainder. Okay. Now, if you don't die and you pay off the contractor, well, then you get those ownership rights back. Right. So it's kind of a temporary transfer of ownership rights, typically used to secure a loan or secure, in a sense, maybe some remodeling for your house, a contractor's work. Settlement options are paying the proceeds to a beneficiary in payments. Lump sum is the normal way that your life insurance policy pays. So if you have an Uncle Harry passes away, you're named as a beneficiary, he's got $1 million policy. Lump sum is the automatic, or sometimes called the default mode of settlement. So if Uncle Harry dies, you get the $1 million paid in a lump sum. Okay. Now, that's not an option. That's automatic. Anything other than paying a lump sum is an option. Okay. So if Uncle Harry didn't want to pay the $1 million, he wanted to leave payments to you, maybe over a 20-year period of time, then he's choosing a settlement option and leaving you payments. Right? So that's how you need to understand settlement options. And always remember, lump sum is not an option. Right? Non-forfeiture option. Now, where this comes into play is you have a permanent policy, you've built up some cash value, and you're just kind of don't want to pay premiums anymore. So if you give up your policy, you do not forfeit your cash value. That's why it's called a non-forfeiture option. You can use the cash value for something else. Maybe take the money and run, which is called cash surrender value. Take the money out of the policy and buy a single premium term policy with the same face amount. That's called extended term. Right? Drop the initial policy, take the cash value, and this time buy a smaller face amount policy, which will cover you the rest of your life, but you don't have any more premium payments anymore. Okay? And that's called reduced paid up. Right? So those are three of the non-forfeiture options. It's very common to get a test on non-forfeiture options. Sometimes three questions on that topic. So make sure you review the playbook. Make sure you go through my sample test questions because it'll give you a better understanding of that. Okay. And I do have another webinar about life insurance options where I do discuss that a little bit further. Okay. So employees that have a group life or health policy covering them are required to be issued a certificate. Right. So that's going to be B-Boy here. C, the master policy. The most common group is an employer-employee group. Now, the employer is setting up an insurance program for the benefit of the employees in this case. Right? There's different types of groups. I'm just using the employer-employee group. So your employer is the master policy or master contract holder. Like I said, they're setting up a policy for the benefit of the employees, the group. You as an employee receive a certificate of insurance to show you're part of this master policy. For group life insurance, that certificate's usually just one page front and back, kind of explaining, the face amount, a couple conditions and provisions. Right? If it's a health insurance program, that certificate's more of a booklet talking about the benefits contained in the policy that are available to you. Right? And the provision in either case, one of the provisions says you have the right to request and look at the master policy. That's your right as a certificate holder. Okay. People don't read that far into it, but it is in there. Okay. So that's how you want to understand that. In the life insurance planning process, the blackout period is considered, that's the time when your surviving spouse does not receive any Social Security benefits. All right. So the blackout period begins when your youngest child turns age 16. All right, so let me kind of reiterate this story here. We have a couple, I will go with the traditional couple, and one of the breadwinner passes away. The surviving spouse gets lump sum from Social Security of $255, and they also get income until the youngest child turns age 16. Once the youngest child turns age 16, there are no survivor's income benefits paid. All right? In fact, they don't get anything until age 60. As a widower, they can take early retirement. All right? So that period of time between when the youngest child turns age 16 but before the surviving spouse turns age 60, there are no Social Security survivor's income benefits payable. This is called the blackout period. So make sure you're aware of that. Very common to have a question on that. Okay. All of the following are reasons for an individual to purchase personal life insurance except to cover a buy-sell agreement. A buy-sell agreement is a group, or I guess a business reason for buying a policy. Right? Could be buy-sell, could be cross-purchase, it could be key person insurance. But those are business uses. This is asking which one's a personal use. A lot of times on the test, that it won't say personal use. It will actually say ordinary life insurance. And whenever you see ordinary life insurance, it's synonymous with individual life insurance. Right? So keep that in mind. But the other answers basically deal with individual. To have funds to supplement Social Security at retirement, okay, because you can use a cash value and take withdrawals, loans and withdrawals to supplement your retirement. Life insurance creates an immediate estate, and your permanent policies do have cash value available for emergencies if it's needed. Okay, so there's how that works. Identify the statement that is true about contributory group life insurance. Whenever you see contributory group life insurance, right, again, I'm going to go with the employer-employee group, the employees have to contribute premium. So your employer is setting up a group insurance program, and the employees either pay some or sometimes all the premium. The employer just set up the plan. So anytime the employee has to contribute premium towards a group insurance policy, it's called a contributory plan. In order for a company to provide a contributory plan or set up a contributory plan, they must have at least 75% of their eligible employees as part of the plan. Whenever you see non-contributory, that means employees do not contribute any premium towards the group insurance benefits. Right? In order for an employer to set up a non-contributory group program, you must have 100% of your eligible employees as part of the plan. Okay. So again, when contributory means employees share in the cost, and they have to have 75% participation. Non-contributory, as an employee, you get free benefits, and 100% of the eligible employees have to be a part of the plan. Right? So get the associations down. Okay. Select the correct statement about the Social Security system, and it was meant to be supplemental to your other programs that you have. I mean, that's all it really came out to be. It originally came out in 1937 through the 1935 legislature to provide survivors benefits. And it was designed, again, as it says here, it's designed to supplement any retirement programs that you already had. Okay? But most people just relied on it. And that's all they get at retirement because they don't have any other savings. And there's where you see them at greeter, the senior breakfast crew at some fast food restaurant, whatever it may be. And so that's the correct statement. That means these other statements are incorrect. A, it is not voluntary. In fact, it's pretty much mandatory for most employees. C, the system is completely and fully funded. No, it's not. Okay, you're paying premium for the Social Security program. The Social Security program is the government providing insurance. Now, the premium that you pay for this government insurance is your Social Security payroll tax. So the 7.65% that they take out of your paycheck, you probably don't know it, but your employer actually has to match it with another 7.65 and send 15.3 to Social Security every quarter. Okay, that's the premium for the Social Security benefits that you may be receiving. Right, retirement, survivors, disability, and Medicare. Right? So it's not fully funded. You're just paying premium for a government insurance program. D, the amount each person gets out is nearly exactly what they put in. No. Remember, you're just paying a premium of 7.65% of your paycheck to get, let's say, income benefits of probably about 45% of what you've been making. Okay, so yeah, it's not exact. What you pay in is what you get out. Right, you're paying very little to get quite a bit out. All right. Patrick has been diligent in investing money for his retirement. He's managed to put $100,000 in after-tax money into a tax-deferred annuity. Now he's ready to take it out. And the insurance company that issued the annuity says his guaranteed payment is $8,000 a year for the remainder of his life. This means he can expect a total amount of $200,000 back over his life. How much of each year's annuity payment is taxable? And it's saying $4,000. Now, how you come up with this number is you need to know what's called the exclusion ratio. And for annuities, the exclusion ratio is how much you paid in. In this case, it's $100,000. Okay, right up here, divided by the amount that you're expected to get out, or sometimes you'll see it as expected return, and that's $200,000. So $100,000 divided by $200,000. Now you can simplify that to 1/2. That means if he's getting $8,000 a year, 1/2 of that is returning his principal back, $4,000. That means the other half, $4,000, is interest, right? That has been growing tax deferred until he takes it out, and now it's taxable at ordinary income tax. Okay, it's called an exclusion ratio because this calculation is determining what is excluded from tax. All right, that means half is excluded from tax, which means the other half is taxable. Okay, and you want to understand that because they may change the numbers. All right, so please understand. Okay, what is excluded from tax? If the owner of a life insurance policy elects to pay an annual premium, he or she will pay less than someone paying every 6 months. Right? This is called premium mode. Right? And the more you pay up front, the less you pay over the long run. An example would be you're buying a policy from a company and they have a $5 per payment charge. Right? So every time you make a payment, they're going to charge you $5 to process it. So if you pay monthly, it's $5 times 12. If you pay quarterly, it's $5 times 4, right? If you pay every 6 months, it's $5 times 2. But if you pay annually, it's $5 times 1. Okay? And so, yeah, the more you pay up front, basically, or the fewer payments, I should say also, than the less you pay typically over the long run. From the descriptions below, identify which one is a term policy. And the biggest thing I can coach you on with this is there's no cash value. Term has no cash value. There's no living benefit, okay? And so, A, the policy contains a provision that provides non-forfeiture options. Well, if you have non-forfeiture options, then there's cash value. So that eliminates that one. The policy states premiums are to be paid every year. At the end of 15 years, the cash value represents 25% of the face amount. Remember, term has no cash value, okay? D, the premium increases after 5 years and then remains the same until it is paid up at age 65. Term is never paid up. Paid up means you can stop paying premiums, but you still have coverage for the rest of your life. And that doesn't work for term. You stop paying premiums, then the coverage ends simultaneously. So C, yeah, each year the premium increases as you get older. After several years, the coverage and premiums end simultaneously and cash value is not created. That's going to be the term policy. Assume 2 people apply for life insurance with exactly the same monthly premiums. One individual buys a whole life policy, the other a 10-year renewable term plan. Both are standard risk with no difference in their age or health rating. Select the statement from below which is false. D, the whole life policy will pay a higher amount to the beneficiary if they die within the first 10 years. No. Term, with the same amount of premium money, buys a higher face amount. Right? Your whole life policy will force you to buy a lower face amount even though it's the same premium because some of your premium goes towards insurance and some of the premium goes to the cash value. Well, with term, all you're doing is buying pure insurance, so there's no cash value. So yeah, you can buy more coverage with that difference, right? And that would be the wrong answer. Okay, that means if this is the wrong answer, then these other 3 are actually correct statements, right? When premiums are paid into a universal life insurance policy, insurers must make certain adjustments to the cash value. The company will add the current premium paid and C, deduct for expenses and mortality costs, and then add current interest. So what's happening with a universal life policy is when you buy this, when you pay premium, your premium, all of it goes into the cash value. Now, what the insurance company will do is they're going to deduct the cost of mortality, which is cost of insurance, and expenses to keep the company around, and then they're going to credit excess interest. So what that means is when you pay premium, all of it goes to the cash value, and it's going to earn what's called the contract rate or the guaranteed minimum interest rate. Let's just say 3%. So when you pay premium, it all goes in the cash value, earning 3%. The insurance company takes out expenses, take out mortality costs, and then they're going to credit excess interest. Now, what that means is your cash value is earning 3%, but as an insurance company, we're earning 6%. Right? So we're going to credit you the 3% difference. So your contract rate of 3% plus the 3% credit that they give you equals the 6% return in your cash value. Now, this is one way that they're going to pose this question to you. What are the adjustments made to the cash value of a universal life policy? They might flip it and say, which of the following is not an adjustment that's made to the cash value of a universal life policy? And the most common answer that they throw in there is subtracting surrender charges. The only time you're going to have surrender charges is if you give up your policy in the early years. If it's a permanent policy with cash value and you leave too soon and cancel the policy, there's a penalty for leaving called the surrender charge. Okay, so after a couple of years, depending on the company, maybe 12 to 15 years out, then you're past the surrender charge period. So if you cancel, whatever's in the cash value, you can take with you. Okay. All right. When an insured becomes totally and permanently disabled, her condition triggers a provision that keeps the policy in force even though the insured stops making premium payments. This is a waiver of premium provision. So it's a rider. I know it says provision here. The test uses provision, but it's basically a rider. Remember, riders are additional charge for additional features and benefits. They're typically used to help personalize the policy. Okay, and waiver premium is the most sold rider in the insurance industry. So if you had this policy with the waiver premium, if you suffer a disability, you still need to pay the premium for the first 6 months that you're disabled. After 6 months, if you're still disabled with a waiver premium, the company will waive your premiums until age 65 or as long as the disability continues, depending on the rider and the company. Okay, that means your policy stays in force. Your cash value continues to grow even though you're not making premium payments because you met the definition of the disability and you don't have to. Your cash value continues to grow. You can access it later on. Most companies, after 6 months, they'll reimburse you the first 6 months premium. Okay, so again, this is why financial advisors and planners tell you got to have at least 6 months income in an account to protect against contingencies or uncertainties such as this. Because when you're first disabled, you still got to pay the premium for the first 6 months that you're disabled till this kicks in. Okay. The accelerated living benefit or accelerated death benefit is the one we talked about earlier. It's an advance on the face amount because you have 6 months to a year left to live. Guaranteed insurability option or guaranteed insurability rider. In this case, they're using provision. This is also optional, but this allows you to buy more coverage at a later date without a medical exam. Okay, certain ages, dates, or anniversaries. All right, Oscar owns a whole life policy that he's been paying into for many years. He'd like to continue having life insurance. He can afford to make the premium payments, but he needs about 30% of the cash value for a couple of years. What would be the best course of action for Oscar to take? Well, if he can still make the premium payments, just take a loan, right? And that's what they want you to answer, right? Continue making the premium payments, keep the contract in force, and borrow from the cash value, okay? The Department of Insurance wants you to keep the policy on the books, all right? So B says, since he must surrender the policy to get any money out, he can do so. Then buy another policy with whatever's left. That's basically not right, because if he buys another policy, he gives up the policy, takes cash value, and then what's left, he buys another policy. Well, he's older when he buys it. He's got to qualify for it, you see. That's not really fair for Oscar here. C and D, it just tell you to pick another answer, right? Find another source of funds. Find another source of funds. Don't take it from the policy. Well, but you have cash value in the policy that you can access. C says he has no access to cash until he's age 100. Yeah, you do. If you have cash value, you can access it after the first year that the policy's in force. All right, not that you want to, but you could. D, find another source of funds. Whole life policies do not build cash value. Well, that's incorrect because permanent policies do build cash value. Okay. A disability income policy, social insurance supplement benefit rider does what? And what this is, before we go over social insurance supplement, this is a rider that actually has your disability income policy coordinate with social programs. So if you suffer disability on the job, workers' comp will pay. If you suffer disability off the job, you may qualify for Social Security disability. Okay. And so this policy, if you're getting benefits from any other social program, or this rider, I should say, then the policy won't pay, or this rider won't pay. But if you don't qualify for workers' comp, or you didn't qualify for Social Security disability, then your policy would pay. And this is actually called an all or nothing rider. Okay? And again, your policy is coordinating benefits with social insurance programs. All right, so it pays a payment only when the insured is totally disabled, but not receiving any social insurance benefit plans. Okay. HMOs. HMO or HMO plan contains costs by promoting preventative care. The rationale behind an HMO is we feel that an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So they provide routine physical exams, diagnostic testing. Maybe we can detect something in your system, right? Change your exercise regimen, your dietary habits, maybe even give you some medication to avoid complications and expensive surgeries in the future. So it is more of a proactive approach. All your other insurance programs are more reactive, like your major medical, right? After something's happened is when you go in to use it. Okay, that's how you need to understand that. Right? Loss retention is an effective risk management technique when all of the following conditions except the probability is unknown. So loss retention is don't buy insurance. You're going to cover the loss out of your pocket. The only way you want to retain loss is, number one, you know the worst case scenario and how much the cost is, right? Number one. Number two, you can afford it, right? So if you don't have those as a known, then maybe you should or would want to consider buying life insurance or any type of insurance, I should say. So let's say you have a couple homes, a couple cars, right? And you're worth, $3.2 million in a lawsuit. Okay. So you rear end somebody, they talk to an attorney, they break out a statement of your assets and future earnings potential. They realize you're worth $3.2 million. They're going to put that on the court docket. Okay. And that's what they're going to sue you for. Now, unless you want to give up the $3.2 million that you're worth, right? Because that's the worst case scenario, right? It's $3.2 million and you could afford it. Well, would you want to? So it may be more cost effective to purchase an insurance policy to cover that, right? And that's transferring risk, not retention of risk. Okay. Hope that makes sense. All right. A disability policy is described as guaranteed renewable is one where the company reserves the right to change the premium, but may not change the terms. Right. So it's kind of like a 5-year renewable term, to be honest with you. Every 5 years you renew, but every 5 years when you renew, you're 5 years older and the premiums are going to go up. Okay. So for guaranteed renewable, yeah, the insurance company can change the premium. They just can't change the benefits. Okay. Now, most policies are sold as guaranteed renewable. And this is where you get a question like in long-term care. Most long-term care insurance policies are sold as which of the following? And the answer is guaranteed renewable. Okay. Now, another question you may get is, with all things being equal, what should you, the agent, recommend? And you, the agent, should recommend non-cancelable. So with non-cancelable, the insurance company cannot change the premium and they cannot change the benefits of the policy, right? So it's kind of set in stone. It costs a little more initially, okay? But the insurance company cannot change anything on the policy. So you're kind of comparing a whole life policy, which is more expensive initially, but your premiums remain level for the rest of your life, with a 5-year renewable term where initially it is cheaper, but every year the premiums go up. Okay, so guaranteed renewable is like the 5-year term, and the non-cancelable is like the whole life. Now, for long-term care as a senior citizen on fixed income, I don't think you want increasing premiums when you're on fixed income. And so you'd want to recommend non-cancelable for that senior citizen on their long-term care policy. That's how you want to understand that. Which statement is true regarding Medicare supplement insurance plans? Insurers may offer policies that contain only the core benefits. Well, there are 12 Medicare supplement plans, right, that can be offered. Your company doesn't have to offer all 12, but they have to at least offer Plan A. Now, Plan A is the core benefit plan. It's the minimum benefits in order to be called a Medicare supplement policy. Okay. And so that's kind of what they're saying here. You don't have to offer all of them, but you got to at least offer the core benefit plan, which is Plan A. Yeah. A form of rest or relief offered to family members who are caring for a person who requires continual care is called respite care. Respite care is giving the daily caregiver a break. All right. So let's say you're taking care of one of your parents at home 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Would you like a break? Well, how about if we send them in a nursing home for a week to 2 weeks so you can have a break? That's kind of what respite care is all about, giving the daily caregiver a break. Hospital care is just normal medical care. Hospice. Whenever you see hospice, look for it's a facility designed to control pain and suffering for terminally ill patients. Remember, in a hospice, they don't treat diseases or cure anything you have. They just dope you up with painkillers to help you die with as little pain and suffering as possible. It's basically your final hotel stay. But hospice is more for your terminally ill. Right? D is intermediate care, and that's occasional nursing and rehab care. That's how you want to understand that. And it can only be provided through a licensed person. Okay, so they do have to have a licensed personnel providing that nursing and rehab care. Okay. Which definition of disability is the most difficult for an injured worker to satisfy? And that's going to be the total definition used by Social Security Administration. Social Security defines total disability as the inability to engage in any substantial gainful work activity due to physical or mental impairment. That disability must last at least 12 months or is expected to end in death. That's a pretty restrictive definition. In fact, 2/3 of all Social Security disability claims are pretty much denied right from the get-go. So you're very unlikely to collect. All right? But any other definition outside of that is a little more liberal, or I should say not as restrictive. Right? But always remember, Social Security's definition of total disability is the most restrictive definition. And you want to look for cannot engage in any gainful work activity. That's how you want to understand the definition. Which of the following statements about the HICAP program is false? HICAP provides assistance for a fee-based upon ability to pay. HICAP is free. Health Insurance Counseling Advocacy Program. Right? So A would be correct if they said, what does HICAP stand for? Health Insurance Counseling Advocacy Program. It's basically an organization, not really an organization, it's a program where we have volunteers that are very well educated, right, and tutored and coached to basically answer seniors' questions about Medicare, Medicare supplements, senior HMO, and long-term care. Their job is to provide information on an unbiased basis. And so they do not sell or endorse any products. All they do is give you information to help you make your own informed choice of what you want to do. Right? So, yeah, it stands for HICAP, right? Serves people needing information. So it's not a 1-800-ASK-A-NURSE. Right? This is just giving you information about Medicare, Medicare supplements, and senior programs. Right? And since they're volunteers, they cannot sell or endorse any types of products. Right? So they can give you some legal assistance with claims. That's the advocacy part. But it's toll-free. So it's not based on ability to pay, or there's no fees associated with it. Okay, that's how you want to understand HICAP. Okay. A measure for rating an individual's need for long-term care benefits is called activities of daily living, or ADLs. Normal routines of everyday life, like eating, dressing, bathing, walking, going to and from the toilet. So if you can't do things like that on your own, well, then that would be a trigger for this policy to possibly pay benefits. Now, the magic number for ADLs on a long-term care policy is 2. If you cannot perform 2 activities of daily living, that would be a trigger for your policy to pay benefits. And that's what you're looking for. Now, there's 2 of 6 if it's on a tax qualified program, which is federally regulated, or it's 2 of 7 ADLs if it is a non-qualified program, typically regulated by the state. Okay, but that's how you want to know that. Now, there's another trigger for long-term care benefits, and that's cognitive impairment. That's the inability to think, perceive, reason, or remember. That would be like Alzheimer's, even Parkinson's. Okay, and that would be another trigger for benefits in your policy to pay. Under COBRA, a qualifying event ensures that an employee who loses coverage can elect to continue coverage. You want to understand that COBRA is continuation of health benefits only. You cannot COBRA your group life insurance. You cannot COBRA your group disability benefits. It's only health insurance. And so for whatever reason you left a group, you were let go, maybe they did a downside to layoff, or you quit. You're going to get a notification, and once you get notified, you have 60 days to elect to continue coverage, and that's COBRA. Now, since it's continuation of the exact same group benefits you had, right? Whatever benefits you had as a covered employee under COBRA, you'll have the same coverage because you're still on that group insurance program, even though you may not be an employee. Right? Keep this separate from the next answer here, which for some reason I have this switch. Conversion is you leave the group and you convert your program to an individual policy. Okay. Now, you got to convert to an individual policy within 31 days. COBRA, you have up to 60 days from being notified to sign up and pay the premium and continue the coverage. Right? So even though they may be close to same premium, COBRA is more liberal with the benefits because being on a group program, there's strength in numbers, and so there's more liberal benefits than going to an individual program, the same premium, you'll lose some of the coverages. Okay. All right. So my recommendation, be open, be coachable. In studying my material, you want to schedule your exam within 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, but no more than 3. Okay. Be thorough, go through all the exams, and you want to go through them at least twice. Maybe 3 times. You got to be comfortable with the material. As you're going through the material, you also want to review the online playbook that I have. Now, the playbook is basically your flashcard set because it's going to give you some word associations and some definitions to help out also. If you're hitting a couple weak spots, like I'm not too comfortable with long-term care or annuities, then watch one of the pre-recorded webinars that I have. That's kind of at the bottom of the page when you log in. Right? The biggest piece of advice is trust yourself. Trust yourself that you are thorough with my material and you have a good understanding. And if you need clarification, don't hesitate, reach out. Okay, I'm here to help you. I'm committed to having you pass this test because it helps you, and hopefully you give me some referrals if you like the process. I am taking you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Remember, you're not testing yourself. Okay, you're just going through questions and answers, making the association, and moving on down the line. Okay, so but again, reach out if you do have some questions. All right, if you have not registered, consider it. Go to lgdstudy.com for registration. Use a PayPal link. You can use any credit card, and when you do, you're going to get an email which will send you over to lgdconsulting.com, and that's where you'll be studying. Okay. And again, if you have questions, reach out. This is where I normally ask for questions, but this is just kind of a self-recording here. So thank you. Good luck on your exams. Good luck on your studies.